back to Champion Secrets. This episode, we're covering serve return. The question that came in from you was, how should I best prepare for the serve return? So I'm going to divide this up into single serve return and double serve return. Doubles and mixed are interchangeable. So for singles to start with, we're imagining we're receiving serve the first rally of the match. So I'm going to be standing on the even side. A common mistake that people make is that they're too standing up in their legs when they're receiving the serve. If you're standing up tall in your legs, then you're not able to move aggressively towards the shuttle. And you'll notice this when you watch the pro players. More and more now, even in singles, the serve is a big factor. Because of rally points, every rally is up for grabs for a point. So you need to be ready at all times. You can't relax when it's your serve, and you can't take it lightly when you're returning serve. So if you want to move in the quickest way, you need to get that bend in the legs so that you're ready to pounce. I like to put the metaphor like you're a tiger in the weeds waiting to pounce on your prey, which is the approaching shuttle. And you want to be ready so that you can pounce moving forward to the short serve, backwards to the high serve, and also you need to be ready, even in singles, for the flick serve or the drive serve that's going to come more flat. A smart player will variate their serves often. A Canadian legend, my former doubles partner Denise Julien, who won a record amount of national titles and qualified, she's one of the most decorated international badminton players when it comes to qualifying for Olympics. I think she's qualified for 5. She was in the very first ones in Barcelona, and she played her last ones with me in doubles in Athens in 2004. Anyway, I remember Denise had the most variety of serves of anyone I ever came across in my career. And she told me that the serve is so important because people lose their focus when they're returning, especially in singles. People take it for granted that they're going to get an easy high serve to an anticipated spot, usually around here, to the back of the court. That's true that often that's where the high serve will go, but if you can throw your opponent off their rhythm, then you can get 2, 3, 4, even upwards of 5 easy, quick points from your opponent's mistake or lack of focus on their serve return. So you don't want to be that person giving up those points. You want to be really concentrated and ready before you hit that return. So for your stance, lower your knees, bend your knees, lower your legs, and make sure that your racket is up with the racket head. Some people like to return serve with their racket head down, but that makes you vulnerable for the flat shots that can then get behind you, and now you're hitting a defense shot. Instead, if your racket head is up, then you can intercept and still hit an offensive shot on that flat serve. Similarly, for the short serve, if your racket head is down, watch how you're then going to hit the shot. Underhand down here. Even if it might be a sloppy short serve that you could have put pressure on. If your racket head is up, then you're more likely to move in an offensive way and hit aggressively on the shuttle. And this is a much scarier approach for your opponent than this. If you're down here, that implies something is going to have to come up to the opponent. But like this, then it's scary because then I show that I can hit down and hit aggressively. So get your stance ready, your racket head up, and last of all, it's really important that you're mentally ready to start the rally. We've talked about this in another episode as well, where if you're not ready to return the serve, don't let your opponent rush you. Put your other hand up. You'll often see the pro players, especially in doubles and mixed, they'll set up and they'll have their hand up while they regain their focus and they prepare for the coming serve. Because often your opponent will serve and try and rush you, and then you end up hitting it. And if you hit that shot, then it's going to be your opponent's point. You can't hit it and say, oh, I wasn't ready. And I had that happen. Singapore Super Series, my opponent served and I wasn't ready. And I went and I caught the shuttle and I hit it back to her, and she was lining up to serve again. She apologized because she didn't realize I wasn't ready. But the umpire had to give her the point because I moved to the shuttle, and that's the rule. If you're not ready, you have to stand perfectly still with your feet staying on the ground until the shuttle drops, and then you can go and pick it up. So I learned my lesson the hard way. I hope you won't have to learn it that way. So make sure you're ready. Put your hand up. When you're mentally and physically ready, then you can lower your hand and connect eye contact with your opponent to indicate that you're ready for the serve. So the differences for doubles as opposed to singles is that for singles, you're gonna have your base be in the middle of the singles court, which is about here on the half. If you find that your opponent is serving 9 times out of 10 short, then move your base up. Don't be scared to show them that you know their pattern and you're on to what they're trying to do. Move forward and challenge them to serve long. Just be ready that if they do, you're gonna have to cover going all the way back now to the very far end of the court, because those are the rules for singles. That's why in doubles, you get people coming so much closer to the line because they know they only have to worry about the high serve going to the double service line, which is not as far to travel. So for doubles and mixed, it depends on your mobility, how close to the line you should stand. If you're very fast and confident with your movement to back up to the flick serve, then challenge your opponent. Come as close up to the line as you feel comfortable with, because that's going to allow you to pounce on the shuttle earlier and as soon as it crosses the net into your side. And if you reach the shuttle higher, that's going to be a much more intimidating and successful serve return as opposed to reaching the shuttle down here. When I'm teaching the serve return for doubles and mixed, I like to have people imagine that they're like a horse in the gate about to exit for the race. They're down, and as soon as that serve is hit, they pounce out of the gates and push themselves forward so they can intercept that shuttle early. If you relax and you're too soft on your push-off, then you're going to wait for the shuttle to come to you, and that's going to be a more defensive shot, instead of pushing down and really pouncing out of the gates and hitting the shuttle early. But be careful, and you'll have to experiment. If you stand too far forward, then that's going to make you vulnerable for the flick shot, and you still want to be able to show your opponents that you can hit down on the flick shot. So if the flick serve comes and you're not able to hit down on it, you end up clearing and hitting a defensive shot, that's an indication that maybe you're standing too far forward. So back it up by 6 inches and try from there again. But it doesn't matter how close you stand. If your legs aren't ready to pounce, then it won't be effective. That's why you'll see often the top doubles teams in the world, they line up and they get low in their legs, and sometimes they're even moving a little bit slightly downwards before the serve happens, because they're preparing for that pounce forward movement or that pounce backwards. And you'll notice that I'm turned with my hips facing about 45 degrees. You don't want to be straight forward when you're returning serve. You want to be turned with your racket, arm, elbow slightly back, and your hips turned at a 45-degree angle or even more, so that you can be ready to shuffle backwards if you need to, or to cross and pounce forward if you need to. Tall people sometimes like to do one-legged serve returns, which means stepping forward with the non-racket leg. I'm much more comfortable with crossing over with my racket leg, but this is something of personal preference that you can experiment with. And everything that applies for the even side applies also for the odd side. The only difference being that for a right-handed player, you're going to need to turn now more to the side so that you're facing 90 degrees away from your opponent in the approaching serve, so that I'm going to be turned more this way when it's coming at me from the odd side, as opposed to squaring up a little more as I would be on the even side to face my opponent. So try this out. Let me know in the comments below how it works, and I'll see you in the next episode.